top 15 2024 NFL draft wide receiver prospects. Drew, you have Jermaine Burton of Alabama.
I think one of the biggest reasons why I like Burton and why he comes in at 15 is I think he's a damn good vertical threat. I think he plays with the requisite physicality that I like from the receiver position. I think he has some quick twitch to his ability. I think he can play the slot. I think he can play the outside because of that physical ability. He's got some work to do in terms of his route running. I think a lot of his routes to me that I saw were vertical routes. One of the biggest things that, and this is not his fault, played for Georgia. They don't use the receivers like most offenses use their receivers, and played for Bama, where, quarterback didn't graduate in terms of getting through his progressions and getting the football down the field. So I think there's a lot of meat left on the bone with Jermaine Burton. I think his best football is ahead of him. There's a couple of receivers here who I think that their best football is ahead of him. But I also know that Jermaine Burton can be a little bit of I'm going to say it lightly, a little bit of a head case. But that's a part of who he is in terms of him being aggressive, him talking his talk to the corners, to the linebackers, whomever it may be. It wouldn't surprise me if he ends up being top 5 in this class when it's all said and done. It's just that there's a lot of meat left on the bone, and you're really not sure what you're going to get from him in entirely just because of the quarterback play and the way he was used.
But before we transition, because and I'll let the cat out the bag, Burton doesn't make your top 15, Headley. He's outside of your top 15. You mentioned the quarterback play, and of course there were growing pains with respect to Jalen Milroe, right? He seemingly has turned the corner, looks really good. I expect him to have a huge 2024 season, but certainly there were some growing pains this past season. He transferred last year. He did get a season in with Bryce Young. So it's difficult for me to say unequivocally that, the quarterback play just wasn't good at Alabama. But I understand your point that there was a bit of a learning curve there, transitioning from Georgia to Alabama. But the one thing that you did see wherever he was, obviously he played for two of the best teams in the country, let alone the SEC. You could see the big playability. You could see the flashes. You understand what I'm saying? So you're looking for more consistency. I think some of that could be attributed to the quarterback play most recently and the way he was utilized or not utilized in Georgia. Of course, Adonai Mitchell transferred out of Georgia as well because the passing game went through Brock Bowers ultimately, right? And the running game, those were the fixtures in that offense. There's some off the field concerns. There's some temperament questions. So I think teams obviously are going to have to do their homework with respect to Burton, but very talented player. Absolutely.
The type of player that if you have a solid number 1 and a decent number 2, I think you throw him as that number 3. He could probably rise to be the number 2 at some point and be very, very dangerous, or just be a number 3 and be a problem.
I think that's a good assessment of what I kind of expect from him at the next level, right? He's not going to lead your team in targets, but he could lead you in, average yards per reception, certainly, right? His ability to stretch the defense and be that secondary or tertiary option in the passing game. So, yeah, I'm intrigued by his talent a lot. It's just the consistency for different reasons, right? Some of his own, some outside of his control that really creates a little bit more volatility with him. Ellie, did you want to touch on Burton before you get into to Malachi Corley?
Yeah, I could touch on Burton a little bit because, when I watched his Georgia film, I was enamored with him. I thought this guy was the guy. And then when I heard he was going to Alabama to be with Bryce Young, I was like, whoa, sky's the limit for this guy. But, kind of started out slow. Didn't really have that great of a season with Bryce Young. You guys spoke about it. Might be the learning curve, trying to get on the same page in that offense with Bryce Young. So kind of gotten forgotten about until last season. He burst on the scene. He had some explosive games. He could stretch the field really well, track the football, big playability on the outside. It's just more consistency. I just want to see more consistency from him. I think his best football is ahead of him. So, he just missed my top 15. There's a lot of wide receivers in this draft class. So, I could have made a top 25 easily, man, for the live, but I was like, we had to narrow it down to 15. And I think he was like 16 or 17 for me. So, yeah, he was almost there.